Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
On to the Pac-12 head coaches. Be sure to subscribe because we've got the SEC head coach rankings coming up next on our channel. But let's start at the bottom of the Pac-12 here, Trey.
Yeah, Kenny Dillingham of Arizona State. As an assistant, he's been pretty good. It's just that we don't know what he can be as the head man in charge of the whole program, recruiting, hiring a staff, plus having to navigate any potential penalties Arizona State could have or conference changes that if they come about in the near future. But I do like his pedigree. He's learned under Mike Norvell when he was the offensive coordinator at Memphis. He was the OC under Gus Malzahn at Auburn, helped Bo Nix win the SEC Freshman of the Year. And then obviously his 1 year stint as Oregon's offensive coordinator was great. He paired back up with Nix, had him playing incredibly well near Heisman level. Now I'm just really curious to find out what he's like as the head guy.
I'm a little worried because he's younger than Michael. So,
he's a young pup.
Yep.
Yeah, but he's doing good and he's overturning the roster. He's not quite as much as another person we'll get to on the list. But all right, number 11 is Troy Taylor of Stanford, another first-year head coach here, but this is not his first ever year as a head coach. He comes from Sacramento State at the FCS level where he did extremely well, took over a program that was bad, and in 3 years went to 3 FCS playoffs, won the conference 3 times, just did about as well as you could possibly do. So that's why he's ahead of Dillingham. He does have that sort of head coaching experience. Trey was more bold here. He had him 9th on his list, which I appreciate. Like that, it's even though he's never been a head coach at the FBS level, what he did at Sac State was amazing, and just what he's done as an offensive coordinator everywhere he's been has been great. And even going back to he was a very successful high school head coach as well.
Yep, I respect that. All right, let's move on to number 10. Just across town, we have Justin Wilcox at Cal. Justin Wilcox and I do share the same birthday, so I'll give him credit for that. Yeah. He's a little older than me, but otherwise, it's not looking good for him though in Berkeley.
Other than sharing the same birthday,
other than sharing my birthday.
At least he's got that going for him now.
Something to brag about. He's been there 6 years. Still hasn't had a winning record in Pac-12 play. He's 17-32 overall in conference. Recruiting isn't going well, and they're going to be counting on quite a bit of transfers this year to help them. Not the strongest of transfers, that is. So I got my doubts. Kind of a tough schedule for them. They have 5 Pac-12 road games. Auburn in the non-conference at North Texas is going to be a tricky one for them. So I don't know. It's not, he hasn't had like a good year in 6 years.
Yeah. It is.
I think they're going to be like sneaky, potentially okay this year.
They could be okay.
Yeah, maybe not breaking through though.
I mean, I don't know if they're going to make a bowl game.
Yeah, I'll be on the fence, but
probably not.
Moving on to number 9, Jake Dickert of Washington State. And most Washington State coaches are tough to judge. It's a very difficult place to win. He went 7-6 in his first full year. Okay, not bad. I really liked his idea of bringing in Eric Morris as the offensive coordinator and his incarnate word quarterback Cam Ward last year. But it just didn't quite pan out, I think, as they all thought in year one. Now that Morris is gone, he's going to have to try and kind of hit a home run with the offense in order for him really overall to have success. I think Ward can improve in his second season there, especially if he obviously meshes well with the new offensive coordinator. But Dickert faces some headwind because he's had some losses in the transfer portal, and recruiting is last in the Pac-12.
Okay, number 8 is Jed Fish at Arizona. Took over a horrible situation from Kevin Sumlin. Kevin Sumlin was coming off of a winless 2020, I think it was. So you, of course, had to give Jed Fish a year 0, and he took full advantage. They went 1-11, kind of as you would expect. But in year 2 last season, they went 5-7, big jump forward. Offense was good, and really that's all you can ask for. And he's been recruiting well, so I think he's done a great job. He's done, about all you can reasonably expect, and will continue to climb if Arizona continues to get better.
Yeah, now here's the step. Like, can you take that next step? Like, you took one step, like with Triano, but the next step might be the hardest, like actually being a good team. They still weren't like quote unquote good. So, but they were certainly fun to watch. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, number 7. Oh boy, prime time. Dion Sanders at Colorado. Yeah, wow. Just transfer insanity. Over 40 players have transferred out. So, and of the 83 scholarship players from last year.
I was just going to say, I think it's 50 now too.
Yeah, you might be right. Yeah.
51, I think, last I saw.
Counting. Yeah.
Or at least the ones that were crazy. Yeah, it's true. So I guess the latest count was of the 83 scholarship players from last year, I think 70 have moved on. I think they only have 13 scholarship players returning from last year. So that's wow. I know he's bringing in a lot of guys, but he's not bringing in, 70. Like, he's not bringing in that many guys to replace. He's bringing a lot, but so there's going to be major holes on this roster, and there's going to be a lot of depth concerns for this team. I mean, the future's of course bright with him, and it's very, very interesting to follow. And they do have some quality recruits coming, but just don't expect them to be good this year. It's going to take a little while, so be ready for a rough year one.
Be fascinating to see it play out. All right, number 6, we got Dan Lanning of Oregon. And coming into last year, you didn't know about Lanning just because, he was Georgia's defensive coordinator, but we all know it was mostly Kirby Smart's defense there. But man, his stock has really risen after 1 year at Oregon, a 10-win season with 2 narrow losses. But now he's going to have to just validate his successful year one. He's proving so far to be a very good recruiter, landed a top 10 class this past cycle. I like his aggressive nature when it comes to the decision-making on the field. 4th downs ended up biting him a little bit this year, but, so it goes. Big if, but if the Ducks end up staying in the Pac-12, you'd think he's going to be near or at the top of these rankings once SC and UCLA leave in the future.
Yeah, for sure. I could see that happening. Number 5, we have, speaking of UCLA, Chip Kelly. And he's kind of a tough one to rank. His first 3 years at UCLA were bad. So I don't want to just forget about those. They happened, and it shouldn't have necessarily taken that long to get UCLA going. And also he wasn't recruiting well, like the high school talent, because they weren't bringing in big transfer classes at first. And it almost seemed like he wasn't even trying at the high school level. He just didn't care to recruit really good classes. And that might have been the case, but then now with the transfer portal and just the more availability of immediate transfers, that's been really good for him. You only got to recruit them for a couple weeks and bring them on board. I think that works out well for him. And the last 2 seasons have gone well, but also not amazingly well. It's gone 8-4, 9-4. So kind of
could have been a little better.
If you look at the metrics, borderline top 30, borderline top 25 in those 2 seasons. So that's why he's not. That's why he's 5th and not in the top. Oh, I like the direction they're headed, but I still need to see more to raise them a couple slots.
Yeah, I'm with you there. All right, moving on.
Did get Dante Moore. We're talking about high school recruiting. It's still high school recruiting is not going well overall, but bring in Dante Moore.
Hopefully he pans out for him. Yep. Or not for you, Michael.
It's okay. I'm a USC fan, but I'll live.
All right, number 4, Jonathan Smith from Oregon State. He's been steadily building that program, and he's done an amazing job. He took over an absolute train wreck left by Gary Anderson. Gary Anderson that was 10 years. And he's turned them into a very competitive team at this point. And then in just a second season, he did that. They were pretty decent that second year he was there. So now he just finished year 5. In the last 2 years, they went 7-6. And then last year, 10-3, a 10-win season for them. Just awesome. So, you're never going to recruit top 10 talent there or anything like that. But he's been this past cycle, he's recruiting well enough to field bowl teams, so long as he kind of coaches them up, and because he kind of kept pace, behind the top dogs, of course, but he's not getting outclassed by, the Arizona States of the worworld or the Arizonas. He's keeping up with those good teams. So he's been doing awesome. No matter who's the quarterback, no matter who's the running back, he's been doing great.
Yep. Number 3, we've got Kalyn DeBoer at Washington. If you've listened to us or watched us before, you know that us 3 have always been very high on DeBoer. His days as an offensive coordinator were very impressive at Fresno State and Indiana. Then as a head coach, he did great with Jake Haener back at Fresno. And then this past year, of course, was incredible. There's an incredible turnaround at Washington. He inherited the mess that Jimmy Lake left. Took the Huskies from 4-8 to 11-2, finished in the top 10, had one of the most prolific offenses in the country. And, I didn't even mention his NAIA run. He went 67-3, 10 plus years ago. So going into 2023, Washington is one of the favorites in the Pac-12. You got Michael Penix returning. So there's a lot to like about DeBoer.
Yeah, that was just a good, solid hire by Washington. Like,
Yep.
They didn't win the headlines, like there was last year was his first year, so it was the same as Lincoln Riley, Brian Kelly, all those big dominoes moving, and they took Fresno's coach, but it was just a really solid hire. So
what he did with that offense was incredible. I mean,
yeah,
that was one of the worst offenses in college football, and he made them arguably the best. It's crazy.
Without John Ross, right? They don't have John Ross.
Oh, wow. How could he do that?
They have some other John Rosses kind of nowadays, man. Those two. They got a couple of good receivers. Finally.
All right. Yeah. Number 2 on the list, obvious one, is Kyle Whittingham at Utah. Of course, a long time ago now, took over a great thing from Urban Meyer. It's crazy to think that that's who preceded him was Urban Meyer. Yeah. But he's been there 18 years, so he's proved a ton on his own, with very little downtime. Like, he took over from Urban Meyer, and they had a little bit of a lull compared to what he inherited, but then they were great for a few years, and then moved up to the Pac-12. Had a couple years where they weren't so good, but since then they've been ranked 6 times, or they've finished ranked 6 times in the past 9 seasons, which is amazing at Utah. He's been to 2 straight Rose Bowls, so he's coming off of like 2 of his best seasons. They just obviously have a great culture. They develop well. They're tough, good in the trenches. They just have a good identity, and you got to think that's thanks to Whittingham. It would be interesting to see him elsewhere, right? Like, when you only see a coach in one place, sometimes it's hard to fully judge. You want to see him in different situations, but he's done all he can at Utah.
Utah is one of the top teams. Like, if I had to choose one program to just like be my adoptive team that I would cheer for, Utah would be maybe the top. Like, they just seem like a fun program to cheer for, like the blue collar, the toughness, and Utah. I love Utah just in general. It's a great place, but
got a good
they're fun to cheer
fan
for.
base.
Yeah.
All
All right.
right.
Number 1 here. We got Lincoln Riley, of course, from USC. 66-13 overall as a coach, 3 Heisman winners in his 6 seasons, and a second place finish. So in those 6 years, his worst finish in the rankings is 12th, which was this past year at USC, where he took a 4-8 team and led them to 11 wins and almost a spot in the playoff. And this year he's got Caleb Williams coming back, so should be another great season for him. Schedule this year have you looked at it, Mike? It's very back heavy. The first 6 games are pretty easy. Should be double-digit favorites probably in all the first 6, unless some interesting things change. But a strong possibility to go 6-0, and then they got Notre Dame in that 7th game. So, anywho, they've been awesome, and Lincoln Riley is one of the best.
Yeah, but what about his defense, Ryan?
It was better.
Well, it was hard. What do you mean better?
Well, I mean, compared to USC the prior year, they were.
Oh well, yeah, that was hard not to do. Yeah,
you know, hopefully they can make another little jump. They don't need to be great. Like, that's the thing. Like, so what? His defense is average or below average. Like, his offense is so elite.
Transfer from Georgia this week, or last week.
No, they're going to try to address it, obviously.
Just slightly better.
If his defenses were better, then he'd be freaking Nick Saban, right? If he had these otherworldly offenses with good defenses, then but he's not perfect. All right, let's show the overall list here on YouTube. Be sure, if you're listening, it would help us out if you subscribe to the channel and gave the videos a thumbs up if you're on your computer. But Trey, what do you think? What do you think about this list?
I don't know about you guys, but I think compared to the other conferences, this might have been the easiest to rank. I don't think there's as many coaches where they could be pegged into a wide array of spots. Sure, you could move a couple of these, like one or two, but I don't think there was anybody like egregiously off. Maybe I think if you're thinking in terms of maybe potential upside, that's the kind of the way you look at it, then sure, maybe you have Dillingham or Deion higher, but there's also some boom or bust there to consider. Or maybe you also think that Lanning is going to continue to rise. But currently there isn't anyone that's going to knock Riley and Whittingham off the top of the pedestal.
I agree with you there. I like the list here. I think Deion is the boomer bust. It's like it does kind. I mean, maybe he could finish in the middle, but it does seem like a higher probability that he could vault into the top three or fall into the bottom three, in the next couple of years, and we'll see what happens. I still remain kind of bullish on his tenure, but the insane amount of turnover has me a little bit concerned. But I guess we knew year one was going to be pretty bad anyway. What do you think, Ryan?
No, I just compared to other conferences, like remember how hard the Big 12 was? That was
impossible.
It was impossible. It was so incredibly hard. I don't know. This one, just wasn't that difficult to come up with. I mean, it depends on where you value. Do you value, the potential, or do you value just what you've done for me lately? So it's always kind of risky. And some coaches, the coaches that haven't been head coaches before, it's always so hard to rank. I mean, that one is it's just such a wild guess. You really have no idea. Like Kenny Dillingham he could just kill it at Arizona State. You don't know. So it's hard to put him at 12. It's that one's just kind of like we should have a separate section for just like TBD. We'll come back to them later, but
it's tough because I think after 8, Jed Fish, like you can't have any of those new guys ahead of Jed Fish. Like Jed Fish has been there and you can see progress, right? It's happening. So that's kind of a ceiling for the Troy Taylor, Kenny Dillingham types.
Yeah, exactly. If people, I don't know. I honestly look at my coaches list. I'm going to take a look at my list again here, but I kind of felt like Justin Wilcox should be like maybe the bottom.
You had him. You had him last. I remember.
Okay, good. Brian. I was like, that's what I thought so. I just wanted to double check here, but I mean, he's just like, it's over. Like it feels like,
wow.
Like
he's calling.
I have no faith it's going to work out there. Like Troy Taylor and Kenny Dillingham, I have much more faith in them that it actually could work out. Wilcox is just, to me, he's proven over 6 years. He's not going to just randomly get good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends what you mean by work out. He could go 5-7 to 7-5 there for several years, maybe. I could see that happening.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't know. But one thing so Dan Lanning, I did want to just bring up quickly. We had him at 6. He's interesting to me because I think he could go either way. Like if I was an Oregon fan, I would be excited about him. But at the same time, it was just 1 year, and it'll be interesting to see how much Kenny Dillingham's impact on the offense was what caused that success in year one. Because, I mean, the offense was what was successful about the first year. Like the defense wasn't very good. So does him leaving, is that going to be a big deal? We'll see. I guess that's why with first-year coaches, you always got to be a little cautious, or second year. So anyway, thank you for watching this episode of the College Football Bros. Like I said, be sure to like the video, subscribe, And we will see you next time. Our next head coach rankings will be the SEC.